If the only thing that sounds good is one particular thing, we're probably not physically hungry. If the only thing that sounds good is something ultra processed or sugar laden, right? We're probably not physically hungry. Maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a ritual, maybe it's about connection. Doesn't mean that we don't eat those things, right? It's about understanding what it's about.
Right.
Right. And then also having it without guilt, without anxiety, just being aware. When we are truly hungry, broccoli will sound good.
Yeah.
Quality nutrition sounds good when we're actually hungry. Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hi, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your health coach and host, Jenn Trepeck, here with you every week for Wellness Without the Weirdness. Joining me today is a listener, a podcast member, a Healthy Vibe Tribe participant, and potentially a familiar voice. Deanna is here. Dee, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Jen. It's awesome to be back. It's 2025.
I know.
It's awesome.
And like not even the beginning of 2025 anymore.
I know, my goodness. February.
Not to call you out, but I did share that you're in the Healthy Vibe Tribe. Yes. How's it going? How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling great about it. It's actually really good. The camaraderie, the support through the community that we have, that you guys have built is actually very, very great. It's incredible. It's incredible to see everybody's results. All that kind of good
WhatsApp
stuff.
group is fun. Like the pictures of what people are making, all that. It's really fun. Yeah. I'm having a great time. And the guest speakers every week, I have to say.
Oh,
they're just.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. She's one of my favorites. So for everybody, if you missed out on the Healthy Vibe Tribe, let me know. If we have enough interest, we might do it again when this group ends. So reach out to me. Let me know if you're interested in Healthy Vibe Tribe round 2. But Dee, for today, when you asked me what we were going to talk about, I boiled it down to exploring our relationship with food. Now, if you're listening the day or the week that this goes live, next week, the last week of February, is Eating Disorder Awareness Week. And in thinking about that, it occurred to me that so many of us have this idea of what eating disorders look like. Right? We think it looks like those extremes of orthorexia, anorexia nervosa, bulimia, right? Like we picture the severe case. And I think the reality is that it's much more broad than what we picture. And people are less aware of the rest of that spectrum where we might call it disordered eating or a challenged relationship with food, right?
Right.
So it's like, I think of it more like a spectrum that goes from like mild to moderate to severe. And my objective for today is for us to explore the mild and moderate part to help us understand where we fall on the spectrum for ourselves so that we can continue to grow and evolve to a place of health in every sense of the word health. And in putting my notes together for this, I started thinking about how there's so much conversation around relationships and attachment styles and, you know, how we get along with other people and our partner and all of these things. And there's this relationship here that take for granted is the wrong word, but that we don't necessarily realize is playing a role in our lives.
Right. Do you feel like that? So sometimes those disordered eating relationships can stem from our other relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And vice versa, right? Some of those other relationships can be strained because of our relationship with food, whether it's a preoccupation or food noise, as everybody calls it these days. And actually, next week, we're going to talk more about this stuff in terms of our bodies and how that can show up in all these other places. So today, we'll focus on that relationship with food. Okay? as always, before we get too deep into it, we have to tell our members what they're getting this week. So members, first, your recipe is for 15-minute spicy shrimp and vegetable stir fry. I love this one. It's like restaurant food at home and even faster than takeout or delivery. And you could certainly swap the shrimp for something else if you wanted to. So the recipe makes 2 servings. So it could be half for dinner, use the second half for lunch, or honestly, it's ready in 15 minutes. If you're working from home, you could even make this for lunch. It's that fast. And then, fitting for this week's episode and next week's episode, actually, I'm sending you an article from our friends over at Balance ED. The article is about social media and eating disorders. And what I like about it is that this isn't just about teens, by the way, but they talk about sort of the reality of it and then steps that we can take to move in the direction of health and healing. So it's a quick read, worth the time, a great one. So if you want this recipe or the article delivered to your inbox on Friday, be sure you're a member. Here's how to join us. You're going to go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For just $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal. I say it all the time. It's a steal when you take advantage of the full offerings because you save far more than that $10 cost. It's seriously a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community so we can continue to do this with you every week. So remember, you're going to go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the episode notes below, and then you don't have to remember the whole thing. Once you're there, you click the little I agree, and then support now, enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for the 15-minute spicy shrimp and vegetable stir fry and the article from Balance ED about social media and eating disorders. Okay, so the object for today is for us to become more aware of what our relationship with food truly is. So I'm going to pose this and just say to everybody, let's start with a little bit of curiosity, right? I want to ask some questions, Dee, not to put you on the spot, but you're here.
Sure, absolutely.
So
ask away.
Do you remember the first time you were aware of your body size or your shape?
Probably when I was very, very young, because my nickname that my parents gave me was Peanut, because I was very, very small. So aware of size that way. And then as I grew up, lived in a household of a mother who has an unhealthy relationship with food, everything too. And so the conversations, the environment I grew up in was always you can't eat that forever because you're going to get fat. So that was probably junior high school, that very much more aware of that.
Yeah. I don't know if I totally remember like the first time, but I do remember, even in elementary school or middle school and going to dance class and thinking about what I looked like in my leotard,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I remember for a while, and this was part of the style, right? Like in the 90s of like oversized stuff. I remember in high school, one of the guys, I was wearing like a big sweatshirt, and I don't know what happened. And he made a comment of like, oh, you're really tiny under there. I think he had like poked me in my side or something, and I was wearing a giant sweatshirt, but it was such a strange, I don't know, interesting.
Yeah. His version of what you look like, he used your sweatshirt versus you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then similarly, do you remember the first time or, when you were aware of thinking about the foods you ate?
Oh, 100%. Probably about the exact same time. Jen knows my story more than anybody, probably because I am a very weird eater. I wouldn't meat.
Describe it that way, for what it's worth.
I'm very particular in my nutrition, selective in my nutrition. That's the way I go with it now. Instead of picky, selective. I'm very selective. But sitting at the kitchen table, refusing to eat something that my mother had fixed, probably when I was in elementary school, because I didn't want to eat it and I didn't like it. So 100% when I was elementary school, just from that aspect of it, not wanting to eat it, had nothing to do with size or anything on that part. Just, yeah, wasn't going to do it then.
Being particular about our food. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I just remember, I mean, I always ate vegetables growing up. Like I remember comments when I was a kid that like I had an adult palate, right? That I didn't like because I would eat the vegetables.
Yeah.
You know, and all of that kind of stuff. So, but I think the first time I felt like I had to watch what I ate was between high school and college.
I would agree with that. Yes. Yeah. Afraid of that freshman 15, you know, be careful, the freshman 15.
I gained that and then some. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, be careful, the freshman 15. The freshman 15 is going to get you.
Yeah. So just throwing it out there to everybody. And if you're listening right now, like when you think about even this conversation, right? Like, is it bringing up feelings? Are you uncomfortable? Is your body tensing up in some way? You know, sometimes we might feel it in our throat, that all of a sudden our throat feels a little tight or our chest feels a little tight. So just even noticing how we're responding to this topic of conversation can be a huge awareness piece to give us an indication of our relationship with food. And by that token, clearing up, I think, you know, maybe another misconception is that any human, any body shape, body size, ethnicity, any human can experience this. You know, this is a very human thing. It's not about, oh, well, only people who are unhealthily small, you know, suffer from an eating disorder or a challenged relationship with food. And so, you know, if we say to ourselves, as long as I'm not that, then I'm okay.
Right.
You know?
Right. There's probably more people on the other end of that spectrum than there are in the diagnosed spectrum.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
And that's why we're talking about it. That's why I think this is so important.
Yeah.
Some things to think about. If eating or food creates, like the experts call it a silent struggle, right? It's this internal dialogue and debate. There's something for us to explore there.
Like guilt?
Yeah.
Would that be one of them? It's like,
sure.
Oh my gosh, if I'm, you know, I'm on a date with so-and-so and they want dessert and I'm eating dessert and now I feel guilty.
Yeah. Or like even hiding, right? Eating that dessert and then later beating ourselves up over it. Like struggling with that choice or even only eating those foods when you're alone.
Yeah. Closet eating.
Mm-hmm. Does it consume a lot of your time, right? How much mental capacity, how much time in your life is taken up by the analysis of our foods?
I think that's actually a struggle for more people than people realize, just because, like, I'll use Healthy Vibe Tribe or whatever, or anything that we're working on, right? Is you're changing a little bit of a lifestyle, a little bit of the things that you're trying to consume, adding new things in, taking a few things out. So I think in that respect, it does take up a little bit more brain space just because we're trying to learn a new habit and learn a new style of living. So that part takes up a little bit more time. But once you kind of get through that struggle of, oh my gosh, I have to think about this all the time, it actually becomes more natural when you go to the grocery store to do that. You're like, I used to grab that, but now I'm grabbing this. And I don't even think twice about it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because there can be times when maybe we're choosing to focus on it.
Yeah.
But is it constant and ever present? And that's how you potentially keep yourself making quality choices, right? If that's the tool, then we want to work on that, right? If we're getting to the point like you're saying of like, well, this is just what I choose, you know? Yeah. I think there's also a piece of, we talked about sort of the secretive piece, but also if it's isolating. And I've said this before, if you are opting out of life in order to, you know, as I call it, maintain your health, right? If we are choosing not to have social plans because we don't want to eat out, you know, or we don't want to eat around other people, or we don't, right? If we're isolating, we want to look at our relationship to all of that.
That would be hard.
Yeah. I think similar to that, if you're thinking about calories, and you're like, I have to save up for a meal out, and we undereat to compensate for a bigger meal or a meal that's, has things that we don't normally eat. It's another sign that we're in this place of maybe we want to explore our relationship to this food.
What do you think the percentage is, Jen, of women who do that? Because I could name like 5 off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm willing to say most. But I also think that it comes from, I wish there was another word for diet culture, because I feel like that word is now like trite and has no meaning anymore. But I think it comes from the old adage of eat less, move more, which is not how the body works. I think it comes from all that old stuff and this restriction that we have to earn our food.
The people I know, it centers around drinking. It's like, if I don't eat, I have to save up my calories so that I can have 2 margaritas instead of fueling yourself through the day. Yeah. It's like,
when I did that?
When did you do that?
When I was following Weight Watchers.
What? Oh, because of the points.
Yeah, because of the points.
Yeah.
And what we learned through the Healthy Vibe Tribe, and what I learned that completely changed my life, is that it's not actually about the calories.
Yeah.
It's about what the calories are made of.
Yeah.
And that, in fact, that idea of, quote unquote, saving up to do that other thing is truly counterproductive.
Yeah.
That the body is potentially better equipped to detoxify some of those things if it has the nutrients to support detoxification.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think it stems a lot from our past. The magazine covers when I was in elementary school, middle school, high school, everybody was trying to be a pencil. They were giving you all these suggestions, and it's hard to break out of that and learn a new way.
Yeah. So along those lines, let's talk about what restriction can look like that we don't realize is actually restriction. So similar to what we were saying of saving up calories for, maybe a meal out and having to earn that meal. Maybe it's, for you connected to activity, right? That you have to move your body to earn to eat, to earn the food. Maybe you only cook or bake with the lowest calorie ingredients. Do you deprive yourself of something you really enjoy because of quote unquote calories? I think the quintessential example of this is like creamer in your coffee or how you make your coffee, right? Are you drinking black coffee and loathing it because you've been told creamer's quote unquote bad? Even using words and labeling foods like bad, right?
You don't like the word bad, Jen.
Right. I also, for that matter, don't like the word good either.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you cutting out entire food groups? Are you going to sleep with your stomach growling because you've been told or you think, I don't eat this late? Or are you functioning through the day with your stomach growling, but saying, I'm not going to eat before a certain time?
Would that be considered OMAD? I mean, the 1 meal a day kind of scenario? Yeah. Trying to consume all your calories in 1 meal. Whew, I don't know how anybody does that.
I was quoted for an article, God, this was years ago. I think it was in Eat My News about OMAD, 1 meal a day. And let's just logically put it out there that like the average person given 24 hours a day doesn't get the nutrients that the body needs. Well, how we think we're like 24 hours a day, we don't do it. Given infinite meals, how it's going to happen in 1 meal is sort of mind-boggling. And there are so many nutrients that are water soluble, so the body's not going to hold on to it.
Right. Yeah.
I remember along the restriction lines and words and labels, I had in my kids and family program, I had a client and I can't remember what the food was, but she said, oh, that's one of my fear foods. Have you heard that phrase before?
I have never heard that phrase before.
Yeah, I've heard it a few other times. So for everybody listening, right, if you have fear foods, then we want to work on our relationship here. What are we afraid of?
Would that be the non-fat revolution of, don't eat any fat whatsoever. And so they're afraid of avocados, for example.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or afraid of what might happen to them,
Oh,
if they eat this thing.
okay.
Similar to the restriction is, in the eating disorder world, it would be called binging, right? The other side of that coin. So it doesn't have to be, maybe textbook, quote unquote, binge, if we're in a different place on that spectrum of mild or moderate, right? Maybe it's the speed that you're eating, the energy behind, eating the whole bag of chips.
I've never heard that one.
Are we eating it all to avoid something, right? Maybe we're avoiding a task. Maybe we're avoiding a conversation. Maybe we're avoiding feeling something, right? Eating to the point where we are uncomfortably full, eating large amounts when we're not actually hungry. So some of these things can be, in that more mild or moderate side of this whole conversation. And by the way, it is natural and expected that if we are living a lot of time in that restriction that we didn't realize was restriction, that we also end up experiencing these indulgences or binges that we wouldn't necessarily put that name on it, but those two things go together, right? One is often a reaction to the other rather than finding this balance. And we will, I promise you, I will come to, right? What does a healthful relationship with food look like? We'll get there. One thing on this, though, that I really want to point out, the hyper-palatable foods, the ultra-processed foods, biochemically create a cycle of challenge around quantity.
They are designed to do that.
Exactly. So if you're noticing that happens, we want to look at our relationship with food as we're talking about today, but also maybe one of the simplest things to do is simply look at what foods we're choosing when we do that. It might be more of a biochemical thing than avoiding a task.
And then it becomes a habit.
Right. Right. All right. I want to shift into some other signs or indications of our relationship with food and even how this can show up with our movement. And then, of course, what a more balanced relationship looks like. Big thanks to Lumiere de Vie Skincare. Lumiere de Vie Skincare was founded by Amber Ridinger McLaughlin in response to her own experience of mere marginal results from countless costly creams. She realized the revitalization of her youthful skin could only occur if she developed products herself. Working closely with beauty scientists and exploring the most advanced ingredients derived from the earth and sea, Amber created Lumiere de Vie, the next generation of skincare. The extensive line of luxury skincare products is designed to address all skin types and concerns with the highest quality natural ingredients and powerful formulas that help heal, soothe, moisturize, and protect. Lumiere de Vie acts as first aid for your skin. The result? Rejuvenated, luminous, beautiful-looking skin. So I've mentioned it before, but I think it's worth repeating. The Lumiere de Vie Anti-Aging Biocellulose Mask is amazing. So it reminds me of the ones that I was seeing all over the internet, but this one is a 5-pack of masks for $48. And this time of year, I'm also back into the Elixir. That's what it's called, the Elixir. I add it to my moisturizer at night. I also put it on my feet, anywhere where you have dry skin. It's amazing. That one's $44, one of my favorites. All these prices, by the way, are before your 10% off and free shipping for being a Salad with a Side of Fries listener. Simply text the word SKIN, SKIN, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word SKIN, SKIN, to 844-947-4846 to try Lumiere de Vie Skincare at 10% off and free shipping. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Also, since you already listened to Salad with a Side of Fries, check out SheMD. The SheMD podcast is on a mission to change the world of women's health by educating one woman at a time with the knowledge and expertise to be their own health advocate. Sound familiar? From fertility and PCOS to mental health and menopause, SheMD tackles many of today's major health concerns and questions, all from the lens of women. I love the episodes featuring Dr. A's expertise around endometriosis and PCOS. And just like salad with a side of fries, SheMD believes in empowerment through knowledge. SheMD, though, brings you the Western medicine angle, except it's like if your doctor actually explained everything to you. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Check out SheMD wherever you get your podcasts today. We talked about food fear. We talked about saving up calories, skipping meals. We talked about sneak eating, yo-yo dieting, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Food guilt, like you talked about. Oh, cleanses, detoxing.
There we go.
Not always, just like all of this, right? Not always. Sometimes it's about the energy around it. Sometimes it's about how often these things are happening, right? How much is it preoccupying your thoughts, right? There can be value in a detox, right? Like one of the things, so you know this, right?
Yeah.
I work with a detox. I recommend a detox for 5 to 7 days, during which that detox is massive quantities of food, which is very different most of the time when people hear the word detox or cleanse. Their mind goes to eating next to nothing. And that is, in fact, the opposite of what helps us do those things. So again, kind of thinking about those pieces. A big thing of this is also competition. So do we pay attention to what other people are eating? Do we change what we're eating or how much we're eating based on other people at the table?
Well, I think you get judged all the time, no matter what. I mean, I do.
I'm talking about judging ourselves.
Oh, judging ourselves. Okay.
Now, if somebody else is judging you, that's about them and their relationship with food. We're thinking about our own relationship with food, right? So is it a competition of who's leaving food on their plate? Is it a competition of who ate less today? You know, only having coffee for breakfast.
And coffee without creamer.
Right. That too.
Yeah.
Right. Going back.
I think there's a lot of that is that people try to compare themselves to somebody else in the situation.
And I think it becomes the conversation among friends. But this is very much, again, I wish I had a different way to talk about this. It feels very much the diet culture infused or curated conversation.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right? So what's the alternative, right? What's the goal? Where are we headed? What does a more balanced relationship, a healthier relationship with food look like? It means eating in a way that nourishes your body and your mind. Guilt and anxiety are not present. It means recognizing hunger and satiety, fullness. It means we eat when we're hungry, even if other people are not hungry, because we're hungry and I also, I'm trying to come up with another way to say this, but we're honoring the fact that our body is telling us we need something. We're listening to that. You know, now I also think people are afraid of being hungry.
Yeah.
It's an incredible feeling to experience and learn what it feels like, right? I think there can be fear around being hungry, that it means that we might become ravenous, right? And play with that. What does that feel like? That's going to also help work on this relationship, because if we're afraid to feel that because of what it might mean, then we're in this struggle versus I know what hunger feels like. And based on this feeling, I know that that means I need this amount of food.
I think you're spot on with that fear of being hungry, because I think that then people are afraid if they get hungry, then they're going to eat all of their craving foods. So it's like, I don't want to be hungry because then I won't reach for that. If I'm hungry, that's what I reach for.
Okay, cheat sheet for that. And I talk about this in our cravings episode. And if the only thing that sounds good is one particular thing, we're probably not physically hungry. If the only thing that sounds good is something ultra processed or sugar laden, right? we're probably not physically hungry. Maybe it's a habit, maybe it's a ritual, maybe it's about connection. Doesn't mean that we don't eat those things, right? It's about understanding what it's about.
Right.
Right. And then also having it without guilt, without anxiety, just being aware. When we are truly hungry, broccoli will sound good.
Yeah.
Quality nutrition sounds good when we're actually hungry. Like, when you sit down at the restaurant and you're like, so many things on this menu sound good, right? Like, I could eat almost this entire menu because you're actually truly hungry, Nourishing ourselves, even if we didn't move our bodies that day, disconnecting those two things. We'll talk more about the movement piece in a minute. Mm-hmm. We can eat meals, snacks, whatever, without counting calories, without counting macros, without counting, and turning it into a giant, math puzzle.
Yeah.
Eating a variety of foods, fruits, vegetables, quality fat, lean protein, right? We eat a variety of foods, healthy relationship with foods. If we're only eating the same handful of foods all the time, maybe we want to explore that. Why are we only eating those things?
Habit.
Could be.
Yeah, it could be. Or just that's what you're comfortable with. You're not comfortable getting out of that comfort zone.
And then the question is, where else does that show up? Are we then choosing isolation because we're not comfortable with the food that might be in that other place? And then we're in that place of, okay, this is not necessarily a healthful relationship with that comfort zone. Do you see the nuance there? Am I making sense?
Oh, 100%. You don't even want to hear my story on that one, Jen. That's a way too long story.
All right. Well, now everybody wants to know, Dee.
Of course they do. Yes. Yes.
Being flexible. I can go to any restaurant and find something, right? We're flexible. Agree. We're adaptable. That is a healthful lifestyle that has balance and a relationship with food that is healthful versus I can only eat at these restaurants. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And not being afraid to order those things on the menu. It's like, own it. Yeah. Be proud of it.
Yeah. Not using labels like good, bad, right? On, off, good, bad. No bueno. We're going to eliminate those. Frankly, those words aren't even necessary when we have this quality relationship with food, right?
Right.
Not basing our self-worth on our food. The value of who you are, yes. The value of who you are and what you bring to the table and this world and your friendships and your other relationships has absolutely nothing to do with what you eat. If we feel like it does, then we got some work to do. It's okay. We're just observing, right? This whole conversation today is about awareness.
I think you just hit the nail on the head with that, though, Jen. It's like, it is awareness. Like, aware of, it's a new year, so we can focus on a new thing. And maybe our new thing this year is awareness with our relationship with food. Or maybe it's awareness of how much screen time, screen time.
Well, that too.
That too is some screen time we have. I mean, maybe that's the word this year, that it's like aware. Just to make some changes, we have to be aware.
Yes. Another one that I see a lot, and I'm going to put this in the context of a healthful relationship with food, or once we have this awareness to say, I want to work on this relationship with food, is seeking support because you're hearing something here that resonates, rather than saying you don't need it or your situation isn't bad enough for support.
Or I can do it on my own. Or I know what to do, I just don't do it. Or,
Right.
Right. We are our biggest self-sabotagers.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the exercise really briefly here. Anxious. Are we anxious if we aren't able to get a workout in? Or does the workout not count if it isn't long enough? Similar to the secrecy or hiding of food or eating certain things, are we working out in secret, trying to get extra movement in so that other people don't know or realize? Just like food, is your exercise consuming your thoughts? Are we opting out of social plans in order to exercise, right? Or do we have flexibility there? right? Do we only do certain activities, right? Now, I totally get it. There are certain things that we enjoy, right? But are we completely off our rocker if it's not the activity that's the thing that we do, right? Are we not flexible in our activity choices? Are we tired or injured and still pushing for the workout of our lives, right? Or not willing to take those rest days? And I will say, like, this for me is harder than some of the food stuff.
100%.
You too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And part of it is, and this is my justification, right? Right? My mood is different. The endorphins are different. And yet, I do take some days off, right? Probably not as many as I quote unquote should, but there are some days where it doesn't fit in the schedule, and that's okay. But if the days when it doesn't fit in the schedule and you're kind of loony about it or hyper focusing on it, or it's taking away from everything else, or our food, right? Like we're making all these other adjustments because we didn't get as many steps in the day, right? Like if hyper focusing on steps is another one that I see a lot.
Do you feel like wearables cause a little bit of that?
Yeah.
Too? Yeah.
Any wearable, any app has sort of the pros and cons pieces where sometimes it's helpful because we can get things out of our heads and, you know, somewhere else. The other side of that is sometimes it can create an obsession. Sometimes it can have us focusing or hyper focusing, maybe is the better phrase, on certain elements rather than having a bit of perspective. I also think if our relationship to the exercise is more balanced, if our relationship to the food is more balanced, those apps don't necessarily have the same sharpness to that double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So a healthy relationship on the exercise front is consistency, adaptability, flexibility, right? We enjoy it. And some key words here are trust, respect, and communication with and for the body. So we enjoy a variety of activities. Exercise and movement are consistently part of our routine, whether some days it's a couple 10-minute walks or it's that one class that you really love. It's all there. We feel energized with the movement. The same way as with the food, the balanced relationship excludes guilt and shame. The balanced relationship with exercise excludes guilt or shame. We respond to our body's needs.
I think there's an aspect to that right there. It's like learning to listen and understanding where you are in your life and age-wise in your life is different than everybody else. I'm learning this because I'm at that point. I'm a couple years away from being 60 and learning that my hard workouts every day are not and were not serving me at all. And I hurt all the time. And so I'm trying to incorporate that, not necessarily using different words or whatever. I don't do hard workouts hardly ever at all anymore. I mean, I do sections of my workouts hard, but I incorporate a lot of walking now, a lot more gentle, but concentrated things of exercise, which I think, you know, I would never been able to accomplish in my brain in my 20s and 30s, because I was at that point just like wanting to do those kind of things, and my body could handle that.
Responds. I was going to say the body responds very differently to those things at that time.
Yeah,
you know,
and I had to come to terms with that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Right. A lot of us. And by the way, I think that is starting earlier now as we're having more and more conversations about premenopause, perimenopause, menopause, you know, like even andropause, like gentlemen, you go through it too. And so I think there's much more conversation. I think we are hopefully moving in that direction. And it's conversations, you know, like these that I think help us recognize where balance lives,
right?
What a healthy relationship with these things looks like.
I think that's, in your whole aspect of life.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. And then, so next week, we're going to talk more about this in terms of our bodies, right? I have a great guest for us next week. So we're talking about more about, again, I wish there was another word for this, like body image. Like I wish there was some other way to talk about it. But that's essentially what it is, right? And so this conversation today and what we talk about next week really go hand in hand. And again, as I keep saying, this is about awareness today.
Yeah.
We can bring it with us. Dee, I think we did a thing. Final thought?
I think we did it. Yeah. No, I think you hit so many really good points, and I hope it helps people to just take a moment and think and be aware, right? Be aware of our actions and our reactions to our food. And I think it's like, and it's okay. It's okay if you recognize some of these things. It's like, oh my gosh, I do that. And you know what? Reach out to Jenn. And it's like, you know what, Jenn, I just recognize this and I'd like to work through it or talk through it. And so again, like she said, get help. I mean, get support. Not even that. Sometimes people with the word help is a bad word too, but get support.
Yeah.
More so in it. You're not a bad person. There's nothing wrong with you.
No. And even the fact like that we're having this conversation, it is so ubiquitous. Like you said in the very beginning, I mean, this is everywhere. It is essentially unavoidable.
Yeah.
And so, of course, we have this tumultuous relationship. We have this push and pull because, and this is sort of, I guess, my final thought for today. Like, we can't avoid food, right? I've said it before. I even talked about this in January with our Dry Beyond January episodes. You can go the rest of your life without alcohol. You can go the rest of your life without cigarettes. You cannot go the rest of your life without food. So given that and thinking about the relationships that we have in our lives, we spend so much time and energy focusing on these interpersonal relationships, which I think is tremendous. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying I think our relationship to or with food is also one worth exploring. I think it's worth our attention and worth our effort to improve.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. All right. Preview of our nutrition nugget on Friday in this week's bonus episode nutrition nugget. We're talking about a done list. Have you heard of this idea?
I have not, but I probably need that.
Right. So many of us are very familiar with to-do lists. This is a little different. And I will say, in my experience, incredibly powerful. So we're going to talk all about it on Friday in this week's Nutrition Nugget bonus episode. Be sure, click the follow or the plus sign in whatever app you're listening, and then your app will alert you when it goes live on Friday morning. All right, friends. As always, I'm your health coach and host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. Send your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Deanna, thank you again for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Good. I appreciate you. And of course, friends, if you are not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. This shows your support for this podcast, this community. Most importantly, it supports your health. You'll get this week's recipe for 15-minute spicy shrimp and vegetable stir fry and the article from our friends at Balance ED about social media and eating disorders. So until next week, explore with non-judgment, just curiosity and observation. What are your thoughts around food? What are your conversations around food? Because your relationship to food is a truly powerful force in life. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.